and just being good to one another.
People at the top collaborate, and the people that are at the bottom compete.
Find yourself, be happy, and good things will happen.
Justice for Taco Bell.
It was everywhere.
Which I've come close to freezing to death a couple times. That one's super pleasant.
What?
Are you serious?
It can't hurt walking around and like thinking that you're the man.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good thing here. This is very good.
I genuinely love this conversation.
I love the Motive Podcast.
Welcome back to the Motive Podcast. I'm your host, Leo Kosach. Alongside me is my co-host, Kyle Cohn. Kyle, how we doing?
Doing well.
And joining us today, we have a very special guest, an endurance athlete going from 0 to an Ironman in just 18 months, Mr. Christian Miller. Thank you for being here, Christian.
Yeah, no, happy to be here.
We were talking a little bit off camera, but I want to dive into your most recent race. So I saw you did an Ironman in Chattanooga. Is that correct? You were training for that?
Yeah, I've been training for that for the majority of this year, and yeah, that was the most recent one, about like 2 or 3 weeks ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the training process overall like for
Yeah.
Chattanooga? I mean, obviously it's super lengthy, but like when did you start? When did you see this on your calendar? When did you circle it? And when did you start training for it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I had been training for, the goal for 2024 was to run a half Ironman.
Okay.
And so I did that in June in Maryland. And so right after that was done, a couple of guys that I had started riding bikes with, they were talking about possibly doing the full in Chattanooga. And I was like, I'm not sure, quite ready for that. And then just kind of talked about it a couple more days, and I was like, all right, we're just going to dive in. So I think I ended up signing up in like mid-June, because I went away on vacation for a week after the half. And then the day I came back, I signed up. I was like, all right, time to get back into it and go harder than I was. And was just super excited to get into it. So like mid-June to September 29th was the race, was like the real, peak weeks of trying to go in for full Ironman training.
Yeah. And you were already training before that for like a half?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that really, the half Ironman training, and I guess the culmination of like the full Ironman training for the entire year really started on January 1st, because it kind of bled right into the full.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
I saw, so did the swimming part get canceled?
Yeah.
That's
so
brutal.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. We drove up to Tennessee, or down to Tennessee for the race, and we were almost there, and we got an announcement that, so they typically hold a practice swim the day before the race, so you can kind of get in the water, get acclimated to the current. Open water is always a different game than swimming in the pool, so getting in, getting comfortable. And so they had canceled that because Hurricane Helene was going on. So a lot of the floods from North Carolina were coming down into Tennessee, going through the river. So when they canceled the practice swim, I instantly knew, I was like, they're going to cancel the swim. And so we were just kind of preparing for that. And then like 2 hours later, they announced the swim was going to be canceled. So unfortunate news for sure. But I was there with 2 other guys, and my girlfriend was there. We just kind of all reminded ourselves, like, you control what you can control. Like, we're still going to run the race, do it as we prepared, and we're just going to execute properly. So, you only worry about what you can.
Yeah. 100%. All right, before we get too much further in where you're at now, so let's dive back. So you grew up in Phoenixville?
Yeah, that's right. So always Phoenixville native, just always been around.
So you said, did you go to like public school in Phoenixville, like for elementary or middle, or?
No, I went to a small Catholic grade school called St. Basil's that's since closed. And then from there, I went to Bishop Shanahan in Downingtown.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of a commute.
Like,
were you one of the further ones out? What do you say?
Yeah,
I went to
definitely.
Shanahan?
Yeah, definitely. Like, always hanging out with friends. It was always like before I had my license, before I had a car, just a pain to get everywhere. But
I can imagine.
Yeah.
How was your time at Shanahan overall? Were you good academically? You said you didn't play any sports.
Yeah, I didn't play any sports. Like, I played baseball when I was younger and whatnot, and then I was big into skateboarding when I was in grade school, and a little bit like freshman, sophomore year of high school, but mostly focused on academic. I went to high school with a full academic scholarship, which is how I ended up at Shanahan. So always focused on academics, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Not the most athletic kid.
I was speaking of what was I gonna say, bro? Once an episode. I always do.
I got a question though.
All right, sorry.
But do you think, because you say you weren't the most athletic in high school, but would you say that like doing what you do now as an endurance athlete, is that take athleticism, or is it more like just a mindset, you think?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, obviously it takes a form of athleticism, and of course, I mean, it takes a lot of athleticism to do it. But a lot of people discount like how much mental is involved. And honestly, like when it boils down to it, I feel like it's probably somewhere like 70-30, like mental to, athletic ability. And it's just like having that mindset that you're not going to stop when you're talking about endurance. I mean, if you're talking about running like a sub-3 marathon or going for something that's like time oriented, it's a little bit different. Of course, that's more athleticism. But when you're getting into, longer races, like ultra marathons and triathlons, Ironman, things like that, I mean, it's incredibly mental.
Yeah, I think it's like I feel like running in general for me at least has just always been mental, like without a doubt. Like even a mile's mental. Like I feel like for a lot of people, if they can train the mind, they can do it a lot more than they think. Have you like fancied with any like 100-mile races? You said you had a friend that did one, or what were you saying off camera?
Yeah, so a little bit of a connection of somebody I know whose girlfriend did a 100-mile. And I mean, I see a lot of these people on Instagram and just kind of now that I'm in this world of, all these people that I follow and these different companies and things, it's so cool to see. And I mean, obviously it's like super fascinating. I would love to do some longer ultra marathons, and I've only done a 50K, which is crazy to say only, but it's, it's all perspective. So I think definitely it's something I want to do in the future. I think right now my goal for 2025 is not yet defined, but I have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them are kind of revolving around running rather than triathlon.
Okay. And like, where are like the 100-mile races? Because I think I got curious like a few months back. I was reading the Goggins book. I saw you reading that.
Oh yeah.
And I was reading his book, and I was like if someone wants to do a 100-mile race in Westchester, Pennsylvania, like where do you go? And I saw there was one up in like Pennsylvania somewhere. Yeah. But is there a specific one you'd be looking at, or just anywhere?
Not a specific one. I haven't looked at it that far yet. There's a 50-miler in Pennypack Park in Philly.
Okay.
And that one's in May that I'm kind of toying around with possibly going for. So we'll see. But I mean, you'd be surprised. They have these races all over the place. And that's kind of how I did when I signed up for the 50K. I was actually looking for a marathon to run in like the April timeframe, somewhere around here leading up to my half Ironman prep, which isn't the best idea to run a 50K during a half Ironman prep. But I was trying to do that and couldn't find a marathon anywhere close enough that made sense. And the 50K was on the SRT trail, starting right in Phoenixville. So I was like, it's only 5 more miles. Yeah. I'll just run that instead.
Okay, cool. So you said you weren't athletic as like a kid in high school necessarily. You didn't play sports. It's like, what was the initial like catalyst to like, propel you into an endurance athlete of all things? Because I feel like it, like you said, 0 to an Ironman. So where did that kind of spark come from?
Yeah, definitely. So in high school and more so in college, I was like really into lifting. I'd be in the gym 7 days a week, like all through college, like loved it. Absolutely loved it. Like it was my passion. Just lifting, getting stronger, like focusing on PRs, doing things like that, just building size. And then fast forward to my senior year of college, I'd been doing that for 4 years. And I was in a pretty good spot, but I wasn't bodybuilding. I wasn't doing powerlifting competitions. So it's like you continue to train every day and you see the benefits, but there's no one big day that you're prepping for. There's no big like release of all that training, or no celebration of what you've trained for. And so I guess it was starting to get a little bit stale, and I was getting a little bit out of touch with the lifting. And my friend saw that they do a Broad Street 10-mile run in Philadelphia, and he was like, we should sign up for it. I was like, I can't even run a mile, like there's no way. And so we were toying around with it, and then I think it was like January or February of 2023, we pulled the trigger and signed up, and I went for my first run in like February, and then just fell in love with it. I remember the Broad Street run. It was pouring that day. It was in April.
Yeah,
it was
I remember
pouring.
that.
Terrible day. I'm like 5 miles in. I'm like, why would anybody ever want to run? Like, this sucks. Shoes are soaked, like going so slow. And then as soon as you cross the finish line, you're like, I gotta sign up for something else. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, without a doubt. I feel like the running, like accomplishment, the sense of accomplishment is like unparalleled.
Yeah.
I don't know if you like I feel like any runner can relate to that to an extent. But like also like clearing the mind, like is running, like did you find that in lifting as much as you did running? Because I feel like you could definitely find that in lifting too. But
yeah, I think on some days, like I've had, a million lifts and a lot of great days, and definitely clear the mind doing that. But I think it's that like idea of like you can show up one day lifting and the motivation can be lacking, and you can just kind of be like, there is no ultimate goal with this. So, if I just miss this day, like, so what? But when you're actually on a prep and you have something coming up in 2 months, in 3 weeks, something, like, all right, if I miss this workout, I'm off plan. Like, I am not going to be able to execute properly. So, like, I think that gives me a lot more structure, which I enjoy more.
what was the did you have friends that like competed in lifting?
No, not really. I mean, a lot of friends in college, like we would just go lift. And I knew a lot of the guys that would always be in the rec center and whatnot. And it was always a good time, but never knew anybody really who, was actually bodybuilding or was actually powerlifting, like in competitions or anything. So,
and you said you went to power build, right?
Yeah. I went to power build for like 1 or 2 summers when I'm at home. And, I mean, it's a great gym. I love that place.
And speaking of college, you said you went to St. Joe's.
Yes.
Why St. Joe's? How was your experience there?
Yeah, I just wanted to be a little close to home. Like I didn't want to go too far enough where I could kind of be independent.
Yeah.
And St. Joe's was a really great fit. I mean, it had everything I was looking for academically. I mean, that was always has been one of my big focuses, and wanted to go through business. I knew they had like a ranked business school. And I really enjoyed the campus, and it just felt right. So that's kind of how I, got there.
And what did you study?
I studied accounting and business intelligence and analytics. Did a double major, and I had a minor in machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Okay. So would you say you were always like mathematical, like numbers?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like,
I always liked statistics. I liked math.
Okay.
I liked things that like work out properly. So like if you do a math function correctly, you get the right answer. Like there's a defined, like it's right. So
yeah. I wish I had that.
Yeah.
No, math is definitely not my. I'm like history and English.
Okay.
Not math and science.
Yeah.
But Kyle, how's your math going this year?
I got a good mix of the two. I'm taking AP statistics this year.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's been way different than any math class I've taken, but
nice.
I'd say I'm enjoying it for the most part. Sometimes my hand gets a little tired from all the writing.
Yeah.
Describing everything in such detail. It's annoying.
What's like a stat problem look like?
Oh, that's like hard to explain. It's like, they'll give you like this data. Whatever. It just depends on what you're doing. But they'll give you this data like of this like sample or whatever. And
like, do you do any like is it like
describe
probability and stuff?
Yeah, but we haven't really I haven't gotten to probability yet.
Okay.
My sections of math, but we'll get there.
You'll get there one day, Kyle.
We'll get there.
I believe in you.
Yeah, I flunked the first test, but after that I've done well. So let's take it.
But all right, getting back to the athletic world. So like when you started to do endurance races and everything, and like still now, so like nutrition and like diet, like what are you? What's your diet look like? How are you like fueling yourself during races, after races?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the diet. I mean, for the most part, I eat pretty clean. Like just a lot of whole foods, just a lot of rice, ground beef. Avocado. I do toast. A lot of carbs. I mean, carbs are king when you're doing all the endurance training. It's such an important carbs, protein, fat. I mean, it legitimately is all important.
Yeah.
Like calories are just such a, I try to eat as whole and clean as I can, but when you're doing as much training and you're burning like 3,000 calories a day, I have to intake as much as I can. So
100%.
It definitely is different. Like when I was more focused on lifting, definitely like super clean, focusing on that, but it all depends on kind of what the goals are. So right now with how much training I'm doing, it's just, just a lot of food.
Yeah. I feel like having like in recent years, it's like, there's so much like, oh, I'm only going to eat a plant-based diet, or I'm only going to eat red meat. It's like I think you need a balance of everything.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's the most healthy at the end of the day, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Everybody, it's like to each its own. Like one diet's going to work for one person, and that diet might have, bad effects for another person.
Yeah.
So you just figure out what works for you and how you feel that you can fuel properly, and that way you're hitting your workouts and you're functioning well. That's how you know your diet's good.
Like I just feel like the red meat like no, I don't want to eat red meat is such just like a delusional thing in the past few years. Like red meat is like they're like I feel like people like drive the ideal that like red meat is just horrible for you. And it's just like no.
I see that a lot.
People have been
Instagram.
eating it for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like it has been like the source of like human diets forever.
Yeah.
It's always so interesting to see because you have the people that say like you shouldn't be eating any meat or any red meat, but then you also have people who are like carnivore diet, like I eat only meat, and I'm like that's also not sustainable.
Yeah.
So
liver can.
yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. Oh, my bad. I don't get it. I feel like it has a good source of protein, great source of fat. I mean, why not? Why couldn't it be?
Yeah, I was talking with someone who went to Spain and they ate sheep testicle.
Oh yeah.
And they said they didn't know what they were eating until someone told them.
I was gonna say, 'cause I don't know how like. How do you think the first person ate that? Like cooked that, prepared that? Like, do you think they were a little bit odd? You know?
Yeah.
One of those things where it's like, I mean, I feel like it's like back in the day, 1,000 years ago, it's like you killed the animal and you ate the whole animal.
That's
type
true,
of thing.
because that's what used to
Like
do.
nothing went to waste.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's some nutritional benefit to that as well.
Yeah,
probably.
isn't it like high in protein?
Yeah, I think it probably is.
I have no idea.
Animal testicles are high in protein, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I'm curious. What do you eat in a day of a marathon?
A day of a race.
A
So
race or anything?
yeah. So I mean,
to add to that, I was just gonna ask like what do you eat the day of a race, but also like during the race? Because like for my half that I'm gonna do, I'm like, should I like bring some gel? Because like I haven't eaten like. When I do like 10, I do nothing. So like for the Philly half, I'm like, this is gonna be the lightest race. There's gonna be water, like But just to bounce off to add to his question.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of people have like their different rituals of like what they eat or what they feel fuels them best. I mean, what I always do, I do like a bagel in the morning, just butter on it, and then during the race, I just have. It depends what race I'm doing. I mean, if I'm doing running. Mostly just gels. I'll do like a gel probably every like 3.5, 4 miles.
Okay.
The gels I'm taking right now, I really love. They are straight carbs. They don't have any sodium in them.
What gel should I get?
I'm using Precision Fuel right now, which I really like.
Like, do those have like everything, like electrolytes and?
So those are just carb in the gel, which I like because at least for when I'm cycling, I like that a lot because I'm supplementing like my electrolytes and my sodium in through my water bottles. And I did a sweat test to kind of analyze like when I'm sweating, like how much sodium am I losing? What do I have to replace in order to kind of stay like at that equilibrium during an hour of hard work? And so I don't lose a lot of sodium in my sweat. So if I'm taking as many gels as I need to be for the carbs, I'll take too much sodium. So that's why I prefer the gel with only carbs, and then I can supplement the sodium through my drink mix.
Okay.
Dang, you got that down to science.
A little bit.
You like how'd you test that? Like how'd you?
So up at one of the universities near here, we know the priest who runs their athletic facility, and basically he invited us in. It helps the students when we come, and they can kind of do testing on us. So it's like two-sided. The students are able to kind of get a little bit of exposure into what it's like to actually have run these tests, and then as athletes, we get the results of them. So they do a couple different things, which are like lactate thresholds. They do VO2 max, which if you've ever seen like people sprinting on the treadmill with the big mask on.
So did you run on the treadmill and they hooked you up with like how did you do a sweat test?
So the way that they do it is the sweat test we did outside on a hot day.
Okay.
And so it was this past summer. And so basically like they'll put these patches on your back, on your leg, like on specific like high sweat areas. Right. And then you'll go run for an hour. They measure out like if I'm going to take any gels, they'll measure exactly like they'll take a sample of the gel, tell how much sodium, how many carbs, all of that, what's in it. They take the weight of all the clothes that I wear. They take the weight of all of the liquids that I'm drinking during that run, and that way after the run they weigh out like how much do I weigh post run, how much do my clothes weigh, because now they have my sweat in it. They take the sweat samples and they run all these tests to kind of determine like what's the sodium, what's the potassium, how much is output.
Is the weight overall like was there like a significant change like before and after the run?
I mean, for our run, it was probably like 1.5 pounds or so.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's significant if you think about it in terms of like sweat or, what you're actually losing in your sweat, whether that's like the potassium or sodium. But that was pretty beneficial in learning how to properly hydrate, because one of the big things I learned is I lose a lot of potassium in my sweat, which is more rare than people who lose a lot of sodium. And none of the nutrition that I was taking during my races or my training days had any potassium in them. So that could lead to like why, I might not perform as well towards the end of a race.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
So you'd definitely be a big banana guy, huh?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bananas are so good, bro. I feel like
Yeah.
it's an underrated fruit.
I don't
Yeah.
even eat bananas. I don't like them.
Uh,
It's crazy. But I'll
Bananas are
throw them in
great.
a protein shake or something. But
Yeah.
no, but I'm curious. What are gels? I don't think I know what gels are. Like,
just like a little packet.
okay,
It almost looks like a little like ketchup packet, and
Okay.
it's just a lot of people find them pretty gross. Like it's like a, I don't even know how to describe the texture. I mean, it's like
It's
a
like
gel.
Jell-O?
Like it's
Yeah,
hard to.
like-
It's like a Jello.
Does it
Yeah.
taste
And
bad?
some
Does
of
it
them
taste
are.
like anything?
I like them. The ones I have don't have any flavor, so it's like,
Oh,
They sell them in like different flavor.
yeah,
So do you like eat it like how I would imagine you eating like the ketchup out of a ketchup packet?
yeah,
Just, like-
exactly.
like,
Yeah, that's
just, like-
exactly right. Yeah,
Here, like I'm trying to.
Yeah,
pull
Google.
it.
I don't know anything. I'm not a runner.
yeah.
Like it's just like that type of.
It's just an efficient way to put calories in, and
Okay.
they're designed to basically not have. They're designed to be digested easily.
Okay.
And so one issue with a lot of runners or when you're doing these high stress workouts is like gastrointestinal issues.
Okay.
And so
Oh, dude,
it's
I don't-
hard for your body to break it down. So if they're, you have these gels that have this formulated with like maltodextrin and all these things that are easily digestible,
Yeah.
the idea is you're not going to get those GI issues.
Yeah. Gets through quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I
get
was
them
gonna
off
say
with
something,
something?
but I forgot. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna also mention like sleep. So
Yeah.
like specifically today, like yesterday was my 10-mile run.
Mhm.
I did not get as much sleep as I wanted to last night, and I was struggling today. Like I
Yeah.
I feel it 100%. But like, what's your sleep schedule look like? Does it vary like based off of like race weeks or not? And like, yeah, what's your overall like rest schedule? Because obviously
Yeah.
that's just as important as training.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sleep is one of the biggest things for recovery. I mean, it's so important.
Yep.
And I try to always go to bed. Like I get up at pretty much 5 almost every day, so I'm up early. So I mean, I'm trying to get to bed by like 9:30 or 10.
Yep.
But I mean, it's hard because I'm busy with work, or sometimes I have workouts after work as well. So then it's like, when you're working out later, it's harder to get to sleep because everything's released into your blood, and it's not as easy to fall asleep. So it's just hard. But I mean, I try to get like 7.5 hours of sleep, which is still probably not as much as you should be getting.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to fit everything in. So it's definitely something that I should be prioritizing more. But
Yeah.
Isn't it also a reality though once you get older, like to your age? Not saying you're old, obviously, but once you're your age versus our age, I think there is a difference in need of sleep. I think you need less than we do at this.
it's
this point,
possible.
I think.
Yeah. No.
I thought
no,
it was like we need like
it-
9 or 10.
yeah.
And you kind of like ease into like you could probably get away with 8.
That's true. I've also heard people saying now that like that's also just like not true. Like everyone needs like I saw someone saying like realistically like everyone needs like 10 hours. Like it's not realistic, but it's like
Yeah.
to like if you really want to have like the optimum like life and rest, like 10 hours. Like I've heard people say that.
That
too.
doesn't surprise me because I actually feel like I need a lot of sleep personally. Like compared to most people,
Yeah.
at least I don't feel good unless I'm sleeping close to 9 hours every night.
Really.
So it doesn't surprise me if I.
If I get 7.5, I'm good. Like before, when I was playing hockey and I'd practice from 9:30 to 10:30, and I'd go to bed at like after midnight and had to wake up at 6 for school. I was doing that for 2 years and it was just not healthy. Like I was dead.
Yeah.
But
It definitely plays a big factor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you were speaking of treadmills. Have you ever been on one of those like zero gravity treadmills?
No.
those are
I've seen that, right?
crazy.
Like you almost like zipped
It's like a
into
bubble.
it or something. Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
I've
Like,
never
it's-
seen it in person.
I saw one somewhere. I
Yeah.
forget where. That stuff crazy.
What's the point of it?
I think it's like again, it's like it's all statistical.
Yeah.
And like for like
Yeah.
health education and stuff. But like I think it's like I want to say like resistance because they can resistance or non-resistance training because they can suck out the gravity. So it's like you're running on like literally like the moon.
Right.
Like you can make it feel like that. I'll.
That's
look up
interesting.
Gravity.
Yeah, I'd be curious what the benefit is. Like I've seen the ones that are almost like treadmills underwater in a sense, and you're just running in like waist high water. And I guess that's probably somewhat similar with the idea of the resistance.
Right. What does I don't even know what it's called. Gravity treadmill. Alter G anti-gravity treadmill can be used to restore normal walking and running mechanics while also supporting the healing tissue. I think it is actually more of a recovery thing. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
Reduces the impact on your lower extremities by using air pressure to unweight you.
Okay, so you're basically like no pressure on your
It makes sense. It's like you're moving it, but there's not weight on it.
Yeah.
It's that has to feel.
It's probably like you're still expending energy and using your muscles, but like no pressure on your joints. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess is pretty. I feel like that's a lot of effort just to, not have pressure on your joints. So it's like I feel like that's just kind of natural. But,
Yeah.
Out of swimming, biking, and running, what would you say was the hardest to get into? Because I heard someone talking about how they wanted to do a triathlon coming up. They did a 100-mile race.
Okay.
And they didn't complete it. They collapsed at 80 at mile 80 or something.
That's crazy.
I think that's like fairly common.
Yeah.
Getting to 70 or 80, which is that has to be brutal.
Yeah.
But like if you collapse in mile 80, you have all my respect in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's still a crazy amount of distance to cover. I mean, it's still insane. But then, of course, like when you think about it, you're like, 20 more miles, that's it. But then you got to remember, you got to run the first 80 again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But anyway, yeah. So he was talking about like the swimming, is one of the hardest. What would you say was the hardest to get into?
I think swimming for sure. Because I mean, if you come from no swimming background, it's all mechanical. I mean, I was in the pool this morning, and I did I was doing 10 sets of like hard 200s, and so the first few of them, it was just like putting out a massive effort to hit my goal pace, and I'm doing it, and then I try to change my mechanics a little bit and like really focus on form for a couple of the next sets, and you feel like you're hardly even working, and I was going faster than I was. Like,
really?
It's crazy. It's all comes down to like fundamentals, the mechanics of your stroke.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because you hear about like the like military like treading water. Like if you like get it down to like a science, you can tread it for a day. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like if you see a really good swimmer in the pool, it looks like they're hardly even like trying to move, but they're flying. Or like similar. I mean, that's with all things. Like if you watch the Olympics and you see the runners doing their 5K, and it's showing them run, it looks like they're running at like a 12 pace. Like it looks like they're expending no effort.
Yeah.
So.
Do you run with like a heart rate monitor? Like you have your watch?
Yeah, I just use the Garmin. I had a heart rate monitor for a while, but I haven't been using it recently. But yeah, I do a lot of like tracking based off my heart rate, but it's hard because heart rate's so variable. So it's like one day, like legitimately, like today I could run I could run like an 8-minute mile at like a 140 pace, and tomorrow it could be like a 155 at the same pace. So it's all variable depending on like how much sleep you get, how well fueled you are. Yeah. There's just a lot of things.
Yeah. You can like anything athletic, it's crazy how you can break it down to such a science.
Yeah.
I feel like some people love that and some people hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you're like either on one side or the other. But
definitely. Yeah, I have a friend that does his based on lactate threshold, which is one of the tests that we run at the college. And so basically what that is you test the lactate levels within your blood, and that one is a lot more. It's not as variable as heart rate. So you've probably heard of like running in zone 2 or running in zone 3. If you're running in zone 3, you're putting out a harder effort. You can do a similar thing with lactate, but basically like he'll ride his bike inside, and when he has to do like an L2, which is kind of similar to like going into heart rate zone 2, but for lactate, he pricks his finger with a test, and it tests his blood level, tells him where his lactate is at, and he'll do that every like 10 minutes, and then when it dips below, he knows he's down. When it goes up, like, so it's incredible. Like people really get into like the science of it.
Yeah.
And I haven't yet got into that. I don't think I will.
Finger,
but,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I figured, are you losing a lot of blood? Like, you do it every 10 minutes, like you're running every day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was gonna ask. So, we've talked about this on the pod a lot, I feel like. So music, do you listen to music while you're running, and can you with a triathlon because you're in the water? Like how does it work? Do you listen to music? Because some people are like, I don't listen to music, freaking, they just want to lock in, which I get. I was talking with someone, and he was saying he can only run when there's like a speaker around because he needs to like hear his breath.
Oh, interesting.
and like or else like he gets like psyched out, which
Right.
I never thought of it that way. I'm the complete opposite. It's like
Yeah.
I like to crank the music and just like not hear what I'm doing and just
Yeah.
like just lock in. But you listen to music?
It depends. I would say probably like 80% of my workouts I don't listen to anything.
Okay.
I just like to go quiet. But I think like that's been a more recent, probably in the past like 3 months or so. I've been doing that. Before that, I would always have music. But I think it just kind of depends like what mental space I'm in, or like what the workout is. Like tomorrow morning will be like hard track workout, and that one I like to have no music on because I have to I like to focus, make sure I'm hitting my paces, and sometimes I'm even like I'll get even more zoned out sometimes without music. Like you're just so like it's such a mental thing.
Yeah, I can definitely see
Yeah.
that. Sometimes I listen to like podcasts and I'll get really zoned out.
I've done that, audiobooks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it all depends. I don't know. It's interesting always to see kind of what, I feel like I spend so much time with like screens on my phone, my laptop working. It's like I love to train because I can kind of disconnect from everything.
100%. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Like, do you enjoy? I was gonna ask, like, so I haven't done like a track workout. Like, I'd love to. Like obviously, I run the trail. I'll just run on the road.
Yeah.
But I love to get on the track. Kyle, do you know if like the East track is like open?
You can sneak.
Whoa,
Kinda
let's
sneak-
watch what we say here.
Can kind
Mr.
of sneak
Kyle.
in, to be honest. I mean, I've done that for like playing lacrosse, whatever. But I mean, no, I didn't. But yeah, you could probably find your way in. if
Mr.
not, find
Zarin isn't
someone.
listening to this right now.
He's not listening. Don't worry, no damage done. So
Yeah, no damage, no. But anyway, so you were mentioning audiobooks too, and I mentioned the Goggins book. So you read a lot. You like novels. You like the Goggins book, all of that stuff. The self-help books.
yeah, of course. It's less about like self-help. I just like I really love to hear other people's
Yeah.
just like stories or like what it's so cool to see somebody like Goggins who just does these like incredible things that you would never imagine to be possible. And
Yeah.
it's just so cool to understand his mindset as best as you can and like
Right.
what got him to do that.
Have you read both of his?
I've read both of his, yes.
I only read Can't Hurt Me.
Okay.
And the Never Finish is the one after that, right?
Yes.
Is-
I read them in reverse order.
Okay.
But yeah.
Should I read the next one?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
They're both awesome. I mean, you'll always have like an extra motivation spike for like 2 weeks after reading this.
Yeah. No, I think that's literally why
Yeah.
I like signed up for the half marathon while I was reading that book because I was
Yeah.
like, this dude can run a freaking 100 miles in like Death Valley, California, up a mountain for a day. Like,
Yeah, it's
Come on.
awesome. It's just incredible. Like it's so cool to hear like what other people can do because a lot of this stuff like I mean even like it depends like where you are and it's all perspective, but like I would have never imagined any of that would be possible.
yeah. Do you have any other favorites?
I really liked Cam Hanes. He wrote a book called Endure. That one was awesome. I listened to that on audiobook
Okay.
for a lot of my runs. And I don't know. I mean, William McRaven wrote a really good one. He wrote two. I forget.
He had one like Making Your Bed.
Yeah, Make Your
right?
Bed. And then the other one was, I forgot. I read it like 2 years ago. It was called like the Bullfrog, Wisdom of the Bullfrog. And so the Bullfrog is like one of the head guys that, I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's like the Marines or the SEALs. I think it's the SEALs.
Yeah,
and
because he was a admiral in the Navy, right?
it's something like that.
Yeah.
I forgot. He may
'Cause
have
I
been a
think it
Navy
was-
SEAL or.
I think it was Admiral William McRaven. I just remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But that was a really great book. And that's a shorter read, which was nice. And then I'm
Yeah.
reading one right now called, I forget what it's even called. It's all about ultra running. And basically this journalist who's been a marathon runner for a long time is trying to explore the world of ultra marathon running. And so he's doing all these 50Ks, 50 milers. And I think he's trying to build up to a 100 miler. But
Okay.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, like seeing what people can do is just it'll always be fascinating.
Yeah.
Obviously, like especially like physically, like the stuff that really fascinates me is like obviously the endurance stuff, but one that's like super unique and like just wowed me is like the rock climbing. I don't know if you've seen that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen what's it called?
The Alpine.
Well, the Alpinist, yeah, that's a really good one. But also like Free Solo.
No, I haven't. But they're
You got
incredible.
The two, if you gotta watch Free Solo and the Alpinist. One,
Okay.
like, do you know about Free Solo?
No, I don't
So
think so.
it's a guy, Alex Honnold. he's like a legend now. Like another guy, you just hear him talk and it's just like fascinating. Climbed El Capitan in Yosemite.
Okay.
In California, like one of the biggest faces in the world, no rope. That's why that's free solo is no rope. So he's on a rock face for like 8 hours. Like I don't want to get the elevation wrong. I gotta look up how tall it is. But it's just
with nothing.
Yeah, it's incredible. People are crazy.
Just him in a climb.
Yeah, just him in a climb.
We watched the one we watched together was The Alpinist, right?
Yeah, at Jack's.
Yeah.
7,500 feet up in
that's
the air
crazy.
on a mountain. Just him on this rock face, and like the like cinematography is just incredible. That also makes the movie. But it's like you get to dive into his mindset and like the cameraman. And there's another one called The Alpinist, which is so the guy Alex who was in Free Solo. He kind of came out and was like, "You think I'm crazy? Look at this guy." So he's doing the same thing that Alex is doing, but on ice. So he's climbing 7,000 feet on ice.
That's
and
incredible.
It's crazy. And like he would just go out sometimes, and like the camera crew would get really mad because they couldn't film him. But like he was like, "You guys can do this documentary, but like I'm not gonna like change my schedule." Like just the type of thing where it's like you need an escape. Like he didn't want to have any cameras on him, and that stuff is crazy.
It is crazy.
He was a really interesting guy mentally. I feel like he went through like a drug stint and whatever that, and then came out of that. I feel like having this like just love for rock climbing, just like that was his new escape. I feel like
Marc Andre Leclerc, I think was his name.
Yeah, it's Canadian.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
It's a great movie. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what I was gonna bounce off of that.
Yeah,
But,
I just watched a documentary yesterday when I was biking called Skywalker on Netflix, and it's like these two
I've heard of
Russians
it.
who they do like the urban climbing where they climb like the buildings and the rooftops and stuff. And that was a crazy watch. It was really good.
I gotta watch.
It was
It's
really
on Netflix.
awesome. Yeah, it was really good.
Okay. Yeah. That stuff is also just.
Yeah.
It's not like so the climbing stuff is like beautiful because there's up in the mountains, but like that stuff is also just.
Yeah, it's where they're
crazy.
on like the tip of a crane on top of a skyscraper.
yeah.
And it's just like it's crazy. Yeah.
I'm reading a book right now that's not like a necessarily a motivational book, but it's very interesting. It's Rockefeller's. It's only like 130 pages.
Okay.
And it's Rockefeller's like 23 letters to his son. Because like so it's like these short like 5 or 6 page letters to his son to like basically telling him like how to inherit his wealth and like spend it right and not be dumb. And it's very interesting because it's like it's just straight from his journal. So it's like you're reading it and it's like he's writing it to his son as you're reading it. And he's talking about like the first or second letter he was talking about how when Carnegie died, like that was his biggest loss in life because like he didn't have someone to compete with. Like he was thanking Carnegie to like his competition allowed his business to be great. So it's just like very interesting.
It is interesting
stuff and mental games.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Spartan events.
Yeah.
I saw you did one of those.
I did do a Spartan.
What are those like?
That one was cool. You know, I definitely was underprepared for the Spartan, or at least didn't give it like the thought that it should have had going into it. So we did the one, I did it with a few friends. A couple of guys that I know wanted to do the Spartan. It was kind of like their big event of the year. And I was still in my prep for the half Ironman at that point. I was like, yeah, like I could, I'll go do it with you guys and it'll be a fun day. Like I'll run it with you.
Where was that at?
So it was in the Poconos.
Okay, that's
and
what I thought.
It's like their second hardest ranked course
really
for the 10K in the nation. And it's because it had like 3,200 feet of climbing or something like that. So it was about like 8 miles, I think it came out to. It was like 26 or 27 different obstacles and then like 3,200 feet of climbing because you go up the entire mountain, down and up again and down. So it was definitely a lot harder than like I would have anticipated it being.
So what are those events? It's a running race with obstacles?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you've ever seen like what a Tough Mudder is or something. They got like the monkey bars, all these things of mud pits. It's just like different kinds of like almost like American Ninja Warrior type like obstacles. And so it was something like that. Basically, like if you fail the obstacle, there's like a little route you have to run or you do 25 burpees or something. and I mean, you know, I was going into it just for a good time, and I had a lot of fun. It was like a 95-degree day in the summer, and just a lot of like, you know, almost like power hiking up this mountain. So we went with 5 of us. Only 3 of us finished, actually.
Wow.
So it definitely was like, you know, it was harder than I had thought, but it was cool to just run it with them. And, you know, I was definitely fine training wise, just because the half Ironman was, you know, I was definitely up in my training on that. So it wasn't much, but it was a fun day for sure.
Yeah. There's a American Ninja Warrior gym like right. You
Oh,
know
really?
I-Core?
No.
You heard of it? It's
No.
like 15 minutes down the road. It's
Oh,
kind
that's
of cool.
cool.
I've been there a couple times.
That's cool.
They got like a full like course. They got like the wall, but then they also have like a full gym upstairs, which
Oh,
is kind
that's
of cool.
sweet. No, I've never been there.
Yeah. But coming up, so I saw your next event is Arizona,
Yes. Yeah.
and
So
is that an ultra?
full Ironman.
Full Ironman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another one.
Yeah.
But basically, I mean, the way that kind of happened was when they canceled the swim, you know, 2 days before Chattanooga, instantly I texted my friend who was also doing Chattanooga with me, and we were like, we got to sign up for another one before the year ends. And so we were like, all right, we got to do it. So we finished Chattanooga. We came home. I got home on like Monday, and then on Wednesday, I pulled the trigger, signed up for Arizona. And the thought was basically just like, you know, I mean, you race the race that's given to you, and we raced Chattanooga, swim or no swim. We went out there and we did what we set out to do. And it's still an incredible feat. I mean, 112 miles into a full marathon. Like, we were super excited with how everything went, and I couldn't have been more pumped about my time. But it's like always in the back of my mind, I'm going to be like, you know, I didn't really do the full thing.
Yeah.
I got to do it. So, you know, I'm going to use my training while I have it and do that. And yeah, we're 4 weeks out from yesterday. So
Okay.
it's coming up quick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And where is that in Arizona?
In Tempe. So
Okay.
it's like Tempe's it's like 10 minutes outside of Phoenix or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I know it's like Phoenix, Tempe, and like Scottsdale is all
Yes.
in that like
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, that's all right there.
What's like the course? Like what body of water are you swimming?
So I think it's like the Tempe Town Lake or something, and it's like a man-made reservoir. So it's an interesting swim course because a lot of the times it'll be for a full 2.4 mile swim course. Typically they'll do like 2 laps or so. This one's just one huge lap, so it's like legitimately you're just going straight for like 1.2 miles almost, and you make a turnaround and come back. So
Wow.
it'll be interesting, but
Events like that, like do they have like do they have like lifeguards out there and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
yeah, they put on great events. Ironman does a good job for the 2 events that I've been at so far, and I mean, they'll have a ton of kayakers out there. They have, you know, buoys that float to tell you where you're going, and also buoys you can like grab onto if need be, and a lot of good support. So
Yeah.
always feel pretty safe out there, which is good.
And how often does Ironman like do events? Are they like
Yeah,
weekly?
pretty much. Yeah, I mean, they do them all over the world. Like, you could find them in almost like any city, any country. So there are hundreds of events that they do over the world and over the course of a year. So they have a lot going on. This past weekend, I think it was this past weekend, they just had the World Championships in Hawaii, which is really cool. It's
yeah.
like a beautiful course.
Yeah, I think in the Goggins book, I feel like he talked about doing that one, or he did
Yes,
he
yeah.
did a race in Hawaii.
He did one there as part of the SEALs. They jumped out of the helicopter into the swim and went from there.
Do you-
So-
so like
Yeah.
now that you do like the Ironmans and stuff,
Yeah.
like do you have any like did you ever have any thoughts about like joining the military or anything like that? Do you think like
I mean, not really. I have 3 cousins who are all Marines, and
Okay.
you know that's always been cool to see.
right?
But it was never really a thought. And like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people always are like, you know, that would be a cool route, and you know, it'd be awesome to serve for
Yeah.
this country. And it's, you know,
So you have a good job. Right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I have a
Yeah.
good job. I've always been more academically inclined, and you know, I never even thought that would even be like something I would think about.
Right.
But no, I mean, you know, as much as I love the running and doing all of these endurance things and seeing kind of where I can push my limit is definitely my passion and my hobby.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I really love my job, and I have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of career aspirations. So it's, you know, I don't think
Yeah.
it's in the cards, but
Without a doubt.
yeah.
And like to get into the Ironman, so like do you like provide your own bike? Like so how does everything work? Like
Yeah.
the gear you use, the bike, and like what shoes are you wearing for an Ironman, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ironman is a very expensive sport to get into,
Yeah.
which like I did not realize that when I started.
How
but
much is like a registration for an Ironman race?
for a full? It's like
Yeah.
about $1,000
That's
for
crazy.
the race. Yeah, and then you got like the Airbnb, you got the travel.
Right. Yeah.
So like Tempe is gonna be, we signed up for that, and then the flights there and back. I got to fly my bike. We got the Airbnb. So I mean, it's definitely a huge commitment, like financially. And then when you're talking about getting a bike alone, a lot of the triathlon bikes you're looking at like $5,000 to $10,000 for.
Yeah.
I had a really awesome deal. Like mine was $1,500, and definitely worth more than that. It's a great bike in great condition, and
What is it?
it's a Cervelo P3.
Okay.
So if that means anything, but it's
Not familiar, but
yeah, it's a time trial bike. So it's got like the aero bars, and it flies. It's fun to ride.
Is it fairly new?
Yeah. It was from 2018. I bought it off somebody who had only used it in I think 2 or 3 Ironman races, and he had a
Yeah.
different bike that he would train on. So it was like
So
pretty
is
much
there-
fresh.
Is there definitely like you could have like an advantage? Like if you have all the money in the world and someone buys like a
Yeah.
$40,000 Tour de France bike,
Yeah.
is there like you can't have an advantage that way to an
I
extent?
mean, I think people like to think that they could buy an advantage, and I'm sure to some extent you can. I mean, especially with like technology nowadays, like you can buy a helmet that's $1,000, but it's
Yeah.
the most aerodynamic helmet. And
Right.
if you're gonna add like they call it, you're getting like free watts basically. So like how hard you're pedaling is equating to how many watts you're putting out.
Okay.
And so basically, like if you have an aero helmet, or if your shoes have, whatever special technology, if your bike is only 15 pounds, like you're gonna go faster.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I mean, if you look back when they started the Ironman races, the guys that started those races were doing the 112 miles on like a banana cruiser.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it can be done,
Yep.
but
Yeah. So that's bike. What shoes are you wearing?
so I mean, I just got like run of the mill cycling shoes, snap into the bike. Always fun to like get used to that. The first time I went out and did that, when you're locked on the bike. So I have those, and then just my running shoes. And a lot of people run with the carbon plated running shoes, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can get away without doing that. I mean, you got like the super shoes you can get, like the Alpha Fly, like
Yeah.
Nike Alpha Flies and
Yeah.
things like that. But I don't know. I like my Brooks, and
Okay, Brooks.
yeah.
So what is every Ironman like? Is there like a order? Is it always like what does it start with, and then what does it end
Yeah, so it's a full Ironman is always a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and then a 26.2 mile run.
with? Okay.
When I had signed up for Chattanooga was the longest Ironman in the world, and so it was the same 2.4 mile swim and the same marathon run, but they had a 116 mile bike course. So we were excited about kind of like doing the longest Ironman in the
Yeah.
world. And then, unfortunately, like as it got closer, they ended up changing the bike course back down to the normal 112, just due to they couldn't get permits for specific towns in Georgia. And then we lost the swim, so it ended up going from like supposed to be the longest Ironman in the world to obviously on the shorter side. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What out of it takes the longest? I'm assuming biking. Or
Yeah, the bike. So my splits between the bike and the run in Chattanooga were, it was like 5 hours, 20 minutes or so on the bike. So that was holding like just over like a 20 mile per hour average. And then my run was like a 4:28. So I ran like a 10:30-ish pace.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of like kind of getting out in nature, I gotta mention this because last week we're at the football game. You guys see the Northern Lights?
I did not.
I didn't get to
Dude,
chance to see him.
yeah.
I saw
mean,
pictures.
We couldn't
obviously.
see him at the football game. I'm like getting texts like from Coatesville, like look
Yeah.
at the Northern Lights. I'm like, bro, what? I didn't believe it. That stuff was
Yeah.
crazy.
It was like really vivid.
Yeah, I can't believe I
Yeah.
missed it.
I know. I
Yeah.
saw a lot of good pictures, but
Yeah.
I missed it.
And then there was like a comet last week. I didn't get to
I
see
heard
that
about
either.
that.
I tried to like after my run, I was like sitting out at the park and I like couldn't see it. But yeah, Kyle, you were at Rex Orange County. Your favorite
Yeah.
artist?
Yeah, I
Went to a
went to a
concert?
concert. It was
Nice.
It was amazing. He's so good live, and in New York City, got to spend the day there, spend the night. Super fun, so cool. He was amazing.
What was the what venue?
Beacon Theater?
Okay.
I don't know if it's like known or not, but it was nice.
Yeah.
So-
So, yeah, it was awesome. Great
Nice.
experience.
and then I have another current event on here. I put you guys see last week that SpaceX rocket land
No.
The crickets.
I was trying to think.
It was No, it was crazy. It was like a huge step in advancement. Like it was like a 250-foot rocket that like you guys have probably seen like the SpaceX like innovative technology where they land themselves. Like you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
So this one was like a huge like 250-foot tall rock, like some sort of rocket, and it came in and landed like in like not like just on a launch pad, but landed like in midair, and then something like grabbed it.
Oh,
I gotta pull this.
What's the
video.
point of it? Like I don't.
It's just a step in like reusable and like efficient space travel. I'm pretty sure.
Because I don't really know the goal of SpaceX, honestly. Like I don't follow SpaceX like that.
Space exploration, going to Mars. No, I don't. What is SpaceX's overall goal? I don't know. A lot of things, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure they got a lot going on.
Yeah. Elon.
Elon.
Wait, what are you searching up right now?
I'm gonna show you this this landing.
Okay.
I could roll this clip in the pod.
Something grabs it out of the air. Okay. A big claw machine. I don't know.
Sure. So like it's coming down.
You gotta clip this in.
Yeah, I gotta clip this in for the audience. And this thing's like 250 feet tall. Like you would never know. And like everyone was like watching it, like going crazy.
Oh wow.
It's like comes
It's precise.
Yeah,
it's just like
crazy.
that. It's just like the engineering that goes into that is just
Yeah.
like absolutely
That's-
like fascinating.
I mean, you can't really be that off on that.
No.
That's pretty precise.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild stuff. Like speaking of math, like I have the utmost respect for whoever figures out how that works. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, but so the future. What's the future look like for yourself? Races, like you said, you got a big Arizona coming up. That'll be big. But what's the future look like? What are your goals? Because I mean, I think once you start, it's kind of hard to stop, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, the idea is always, you just did this one thing that a year ago you thought would never be possible. So
Right.
where are you going to be in 1 year from now? So it's always so exciting to think about what's next and like what I want to do. But at the same time, I try not to get too ahead of myself because, we're coming up 4 weeks away from another huge race. And so it's, you got to focus on the task at hand and then kind of give that thought process of what's happening next. But I don't know. I think I got a lot of good things that I'm thinking about for next year. And I think a lot of running is in the future and trying to get some more, ultras under my belt and just kind of see where that takes me. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
We'll be here for it. We're looking
Awesome.
forward to seeing what you do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Well, Kyle, thanks for being here as always. Let me just shake your hand.
Okay.
But yeah, Christian, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming out here from Phoenixville. I hope we didn't keep you too long here.
No, you're good. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again. Motive Podcast, Kyle Cohen, Leo Kosuch, Christian Miller, signing off. Peace.